Hi, I'm Karina Mrozinski, work at the Culture Heritage Department. I'm the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer. And we have Loretta Metoxen here, a tribal historian. And what we want to accomplish today is to talk about Anna John Nursing Home, where we're at right now. Get some history and information from Loretta, and be able to start getting information to the community about the history, and take on the next steps, upcoming articles in the gully. So I'll pass it over to you, Loretta.
Okay, thank you, Karina. I'm Loretta Metoxen, the tribal historian, and I've been asked to do this, respond to an interview on the Anna John Nursing Home and some of the history of it. Actually, it was begun probably in about 1975, and there were 4 or 5 ladies from the community. I think I can remember them all. Anna John herself, she was one of the leaders in it. Amelia Cornelius, who may have been the secretary of the tribe at the time. Her mother, Priscilla Budgie Manders, and probably Audrey Dockstader, who was also involved in providing health services at the time. And there may have been 1 or 2 others that were involved, along with the business committee in 1975, 1976. We had a very sparse cadre of people working for the tribe then. We had the community action programs, we had the community health representatives. These were sponsored and funded through Great Lakes Intertribal Council. The funding did not come direct to the Oneida Nation until much later. And the ladies that I named were interested in getting care for the elders, which we did not have at the time. So that they learned that there was some legislation called the Hill-Burton Act that would fund facilities such as we are in right now. And so they proceeded to write the application for the grant to get funding for the Hill-Burton Act. And so they were successful. As I said, we did not have a planning department. We did not have any of these support teams that we currently have for CIP programming or that kind of thing that we do now. So they had to do everything themselves, and they were successful at it. Of course, if you have federal monies for the purpose of the general population, not only Oneida people, but everybody, then the nursing home that was developed and ultimately called the Anna John Nursing Home had to serve everybody that applied and was eligible. So we not only serve Oneida tribal members, but sometimes other tribal members, and often non-tribal people altogether. Many of them could pay because they were retired farmers or had some other occupation. They could, or they may have had insurance that would pay for their services here. But we did, on occasion, provide subsidies for a number of non-Oneidas who could not afford it, or that they, actually I know of a couple cases where non-Oneida people gave their assets away to their children, family, or something, and they became eligible for something called Title 19 through the state for support of their care here. So I guess they figured out to have it 2 ways. They kept their money at the same time. they got very good services here, and it didn't cost their family a lot of money. If you have questions of me that maybe I can address, maybe I could go do that.
When you were talking about, they had given their assets away and became eligible for the title of what?
Title 19, the titles could have changed, but at that time, that was a subsidy to the tribe from the state for the care of people here. Because all people have to be cared for somehow. Either their family takes care of the payments, or they have insurance, or there are public programs that take care of their payments, so that they're able to stay here and have good care.
Do they still apply for this grant then every year? Or
Well, the Hill-Burton Act was just for the construction.
for the, oh, okay.
Yeah, but these other programs that, that are state funded or federally funded for the assistance of people, say Medicare. I think the new facility will be Medicare certified. So then Medicare payments for people who are under Medicare will receive those subsidies from Medicare, actually, that they paid for them through their Social Security, through premiums through Social Security.
And will that, the new facility still continue to, have non-tribal too then, or?
I asked, before they were building it and during the time that they were building it, I asked the question of the team, are you getting state money and are you getting federal money to help with the construction of the new facility? They told me yes, and I said, that does mean that non-tribal people can also be served, and they said yes. Because those are public funds.
Yeah.
And so the public has to be served with the public funds. And that includes tribal members as well as non-tribal folks. In the new facility, if a person is retired and has insurance for long-term care and they've saved their money and stuff, they could probably, pay a regular cash payments for their care if they wanted to at the new facility.
Do you know
There
how-
are not many Oneida people in that position.
Right. Do you know, currently how many people we have here now?
I don't know, but I think there are less than 50 rooms or 50 bed spaces in
Karen
this
Krause,
facility.
line 1. Karen Krause, line 1.
And I think there are, I'm not sure, but I think there are about 50 more or less in the new facility.
Oh, okay.
And that bothers me. And the reason it bothers me is because the baby boomers are just online now. And we have more baby boomers in our population than we have any other age group. So that there are 1,000 people that are going into elderly, the elderly tier, and I'm wondering myself, how are they going to be taken care of when they need the care? Because we do not have the space.
Right, it would seem to me that we don't, that's the purpose of building this new facility, or one of the purposes would be for, the quantity, I guess. Here, obviously it's not serving its purpose. I'm not sure if it's, if they've looked at the, space and the rooms and the amount of people that we have, up to 50, I imagine, but obviously that's a number that was,
I think when they apply for a license,
yeah.
that the state allows so many rooms for a certain, there's some kind of a formula or something. And it's problematic because nursing homes are a business. They're quite a big business in Green Bay. You see quite a few of them. And a lot of times they're owned by doctors. And the reason they are is because that's an investment for a doctor and they are making money. We are not making money here. I know that we are not. I have looked at, you know, how much it costs, and I think we put a considerable amount of additional funds into what is paid by each individual. We pay more in addition from the general fund for the facility. The reason it is, there's something called economies of scale. In order to have the facility pay for itself, you have to have a certain number of clients that are paying clients. And if you don't have them, then you have to, if you don't have that economy of scale, then you have to subsidize the services. And we do that. We subsidize the services from our general fund. Now, I don't have any problem with that as long as the tribe approves the budget and we do the general, but I don't think they look closely at this particular service. And I think we do a good job of providing good services for the people who are here. It looks like we're gonna provide a whole lot more services for the new facility, and that's all good things for our people. But as we already looked at, it won't only be our people in that facility,
And the
because
money isn't-
everybody's eligible.
Right, and the money isn't, so it's not a profit-making
No,
entity at all, and it's gonna cost the tribe.
it will. It will cost the tribe, and as I said, those nursing homes and other facilities that have additional services and are Medicare certified in Green Bay, all of them make money, and there are quite a few of them. And there's one in Seymour. That one makes money. Now, I don't, you know, I'm not the one who decides on the budget or anything, but I've looked at it, I've questioned it, and I think we should have these kinds of facilities for our elders, but I think that we should look at the budget at the same time.
Absolutely. Okay, I don't know, I don't have any more questions.
Well, I might have a comment. I understand that this building will be taken down. I'm sad about that, because I thought when we put it up, we should have had architects that put in the correct standards so that it would last for a certain number of years, rather than, even though Hill-Burton money's built this, that's not a good reason not to build it very well so that it will last.
Right, and I think too at the time, and it is very sad because I remember, you know, a lot of my family members, you know, here
Being here.
too, and I'm sure the community, you know, in a whole too. I mean, this when it was built, I'm sure that the architects took that into, you know, had to, you know, make sure that it was up to code and everything then. But I think that the tribe itself lacked on continuing to follow up with caring.
The regular maintenance.
The maintenance, upkeeping, updating, you know, all that needs to be updated to code now. Michael Showers, I believe, had mentioned that, you know, it's because of the, it would cost the tribe more money now, this day, to upgrade, you know, a lot of the main water infrastructure, that type of thing. It would cost them more to do that than it would cost to upgrade everything. And so I think, you know, and if you look at what time and what, you know, what year should have the tribe stepped in and said, you know, hey, you know, we're at full capacity, or, you know, we need to look at, you know, some of the requirements here, the zoning requirements, are there other funds we can apply for, or, you know, at that time. And that just kinda, you
I'm
know,
wondering if it would cost more to upgrade this building than it would be to build a new building of the same capacity for office purposes. I don't know that. I mean, I get told things, but I don't see anything.
yeah, and I think that's important, because with that being said, Loretta, I think the community needs to see that visually, the cost
Mhm.
comparison.
I mean, I can be convinced if they give me, you know, the data
Mhm.
on how much it's costing and for what,
Yeah.
compared to building the same facility of the same capacity for office spaces.
Right. And I believe that Michael Showers is going to be producing that
Mhm.
data,
That would be good.
soon, so that we can, do another segment, on the comparisons, I guess, and the, with the budget of
Mhm.
the cost of this versus, the upgrade then versus, the upgrade now.
Yes.
And, unfortunately, we, anytime we lose a building, it's like some people feel we're losing, the history to that's connected to this.
Well, I think we are, in a way. I mean, how many of our people came through this building since 1976?
Right,
I don't have a notion, but there are quite a few.
right.
A lot of my
Absolutely.
relatives came through here too, just as well as yours.
Yeah, and I think that's important, for us to continue to keep, you know, talking and discussing and listening and hearing the stories, about this, one of these places, one of many that are looking at to be demoed. I guess another thing we wanted to see if we could touch a little more on, is the health center. We took a tour of the health center, and that's another building that's going to be up for demolition. So
Okay.
we wanted to make sure to capture, you know, some of the history too, and, start, start getting that recorded and documented.
Well, last night we had the regular meeting for the Oneida Nation Veterans Affairs Committee, and I mentioned the health center. And John Brenninger happens to be a member on ONVAC, and he also happens to be over as a director in the planning department at Little Bear. And I told them, I said, you should go over there and look at that. Well, one of the guys sitting on there, another member of the ONVAC, said, well, we were told we couldn't touch the cupboards because they're all full of mold. And I said, no, they're not. I said, I went through just about every room on the upper floor, and they're very good condition, and that you should hire a couple of people, carpenters, so that they know how to take those cabinets down, and put those cabinets in a proper storage place and have them up for sale for people who could use them. And that way they won't go to waste, and you'll give a couple of people temporary employment, and you'll save those cupboards.
Mhm.
Well, John was there and he heard that, so I'm going to follow up with John and call him on that, see what he can do, John Brenninger.
Yeah, and I think, and that's one of the importance of having an interview, is, when we did the first interview, we went over there, we took photos
Right.
of the inside of the health center, and we wanted to be able to show the community, what it looks like inside. And, you can already see the communication and the facts,
Mm-hmm.
and he's in planning. So what does that tell you? I mean, it's really important for people to visually see the health center,
Right.
what it looked like then and what it looks like now. And I think with all the buildings that have been demoed in the past, there has been issues surrounding salvage, recycling the material,
Right.
that has been in these buildings that are perfectly fine. I mean, they may look a little, dented up or whatever, but they're reusable.
I
People-
know of people who have requested and were denied,
Right.
materials
Mhm,
from demoed buildings,
mhm,
or before they were demoed.
right.
And, I think that we are lax in salvaging, these things. I see big piles of wood all splintered up that was good in the first place, and got all splintered up by the time the big machines got through with them.
Desks, chairs, equipment even, I mean, even though they may be outdated or whatever, we certainly could keep, a couple of them and, have them as part of the, log home tours maybe, and one cabin, of some of the items from the health center and
Right, as part of the history. It's a
Right.
living, well, it's not a living history, but it's a history current.
Right, and so, I do know that there was, I think a report or, something mentioned in this demolition process regarding asbestos, so, and I don't know, as far as that entails, if it's in the actual walls, or if it's in the ceiling tiles, or the flooring.
They might have covered, heating pipes with it. That's what it was used, asbestos was used for much of the time, to insulate heating pipes.
Right, okay. So, I mean, does that affect then, the cabinets or the chairs and the counters or, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't think so, and, it would be nice,
Do we have is it for certain that there is asbestos in that building?
I can find out for sure, but I'm pretty sure that there was mention of it, and environmental was involved in,
Well, if
in
they
that.
know, I mean, that's one thing, but if it's
Mhm.
just, maybe, I
Right.
think that's another
Right.
thing.
And I think taking a proactive approach and trying to do the interviews and talk about stuff like this, that are involved in, taking down a building, it's more than just going in there and, demoing everything and, okay, well, that building's gone. Cause we've lost, as you know, so many of our buildings in the past from
Right.
that practice.
Right.
And so now, we need to talk about, the history of these buildings, the problematic problems of the buildings, budgeting for the buildings,
Right.
and I think as a whole, the GTC needs to be aware of all that. So that, we're able to make sound decisions and help the departments come up with, viable solutions instead of just going and, gutting our memories or gutting, buildings that have the memories attached.
Do we know of the plan for, say, all of the chairs in this room, are they going to the new facility?
I have no idea.
Are all of the, the amenities here, like the beds and stuff, is that going to the new
Yeah,
facility? I don't know either.
Yeah.
I was wondering if they had, was just furnishing the new facility with new equipment and furnishings. Are they? I don't know, but I would not like to see these things go by the wayside because they're not being used or planned for.
Right, right. And in the health center, what programs started out in the health center in 75?
Well, they hadn't built that. I think it was several more years before they built the health center.
Oh, after this one was built?
Yes, and then the first clinic, like it was a volunteer clinic of doctors and nurses, came to the Norbert Hill Center. They assigned a few rooms for that. And then when the Oneida Nation Memorial Building was built, what we call it the Civic Center now, there are several rooms off to the left as you go into the building. There's several individual. Then those individual rooms were used as the health clinic, was still with volunteer doctors before they built this facility.
Right.
So that might have been in the early 70s, 74, 5, maybe 6 before. Well, it was because this was built in 76, or it was started in 76, and the health clinic itself was built thereafter. So it was maybe up to the middle or late 70s that they were still using the Oneida Nation Memorial Building for a health clinic with volunteer staff. Before they moved into this one and got a program together where the tribe could, through Indian Health Service and tribal funds, employ medical staff.
And so that's, so in the health center, then they had the actual clinic area,
In the memorial building, they had, over here, it was now becoming a permanent medical staff.
okay, and then.
We even had a
so we-
dentist chair in the old white building on Chicago Corners downstairs,
Oh,
and there were volunteer students, I think from Marquette University, come to do dental work on Oneida's, many children included, one dental chair, antique actually, I remember it well. And it was in the basement of the Chicago Corners School, which became the tribal building later on.
we'll have to look for that chair, maybe it's still down there.
It could be, yes.
Yeah, and then so they had, and I believe they had it, after they, were permanently,
Oh, yes, because
Here.
we saw the, in 2 rooms, I saw, when we did the little foray there,
mhm,
of x-ray machine, dental x-ray machines,
right,
which is a step up from our antique chair over at the Chicago Corners
Yeah.
building.
yeah, and I remember coming here, for dental work as a child, here.
In
at
this
the health center,
building.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then, we seen that they had the WIC office
Right,
over
women,
here,
infants, and children.
and then,
And there was a stove taken out of there, obviously, I mean, that's where the place is, that was used for demonstrating cooking menus or meals for mothers and children in that room, in the WIC room.
and then what all of our services,
It was optical.
optical, yeah. Optical was over there.
And it looked like the entrance room or where the waiting room was made to look child friendly
Yes,
by the wallpaper and I think some playthings perhaps
right,
and smaller tables,
yeah.
that kind of thing for children.
Yeah, and then even as you first enter into, the health center, right to your right, then was the pharmacy, I believe, where you picked up your medications.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
And then contract health was down in the
in
basement.
the basements, yeah, okay. So all these programs that we have now currently in the new
They're in the new facility.
facility, this is where they were at the.
What I'm going to do is, I'll just write an email to John about those cupboards. And that they, somebody should take that in hand and do a project out of it to salvage them.
Good idea.
Or anything else that's usable over there, I don't know what, I think there's a few tables here and there, some other things.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are a lot of other things, we didn't get through the whole building or in the basements.
It
But-
looks like there's some good plumbing, I mean, the sinks, some of the sinks.
Yeah, yeah,
And, even if, like the sink, maybe somebody doesn't want to take that sink and put it in their house. But what about if they have like mechanical stuff going on in their garage and they wanna wash up, or even if people are, my son has a goat farm, I think he would like his sink in his room there by the goat farm to wash up before he goes in the house.
Absolutely,
You
I
know?
mean, there's no reason why we couldn't have our own like restore, that what Green Bay has,
Right,
when they're looking at, maybe our younger people are starting to build or whatever.
Habitat for Humanity salvages all the stuff from the buildings that they're taking down or refurbishing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I mean, there's no reason why we couldn't check into trying to establish, something like that,
Mhm.
for recycling, things that, coming from buildings that are being demoed.
Right.
We paid enough money for them then.
Right, so, I think we made the point, and if the right people hear it, then maybe we can get something facilitated out of it.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, you'll go.
You're